What's up everybody and welcome to the Game of the Week show, episode number 2. I am your host Matt Southwell and on my right is the ever-present Dan Gilbert.
Hey everyone.
Hi Dan, thanks for coming again. So you've had a week off I believe.
Yes.
How's that been for you?
Got a lot of gaming done which I'm happy about.
What have you been playing?
I've been catching up on games I missed, which are Far Cry 3 and The Last of Us.
Both very good games.
Yes,
I'm
probably about halfway on both because
Okay.
I've been mixing it up so I haven't gorged on one.
Yeah, sure. Well, I won't spoil anything, but they're both fantastic games. And
Yeah, I'm definitely enjoying
Good.
where they're going.
That's good. Okay, and on my left, you'll notice it's not Ashley Dye this week. He's currently being banned for interrupting me in episode 1 that you might have seen. So we've got our very first special guest, which is Gaz Taylor.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us.
It's fine, don't worry.
You might not be aware, but Gaz has actually got his own YouTube channel with my good friend Matt Taylor, and I'll put a link to it up here if I can work out annotations, but if not, it'll be in the description. But make sure you check it out because it's very funny. But anyway, back to the Game of the Week show, and just to give you a brief intro, what this show is 3 friends gathering around this table to chat about the weekly topics that have come out in the news of the gaming industry. We will then round out the show by focusing on one particular game, which is our Game of the Week. Okay, so as you guys might be aware, E3 obviously finished last week. The news has been a little bit slower this week, it always is. A bit slower after the craziness that is E3, but there's still been some very interesting topics, and we're going to go through the top 5 that I think has been released this week. Starting off with number 1, and PS Vita sales. They've risen sharply since the release of Borderlands 2 for the Vita and the Vita and Borderlands 2 bundle. Now, the figures have yet to be confirmed by Sony, but first guide is that the month-on-month figures could be up as much as 1,600%, which is an incredible achievement, but 1,600% of not a lot is still not very much. So guys, you know, the Vita, Gaz, I know you're an owner along with myself. I'm a big fan of the Vita. This is good news for the console, isn't it?
Very good news, yeah. It was slow to start off with. People didn't think the Vita was worth buying. But then now with this Borderlands come up, like you said, sales gone through the roof, so hopefully it's good.
No, it's good. Dan, you don't have a Vita at the moment,
No,
do you?
I have looked at one. I think it was just like I didn't see enough games at the time that interested me to purposely go out and buy the Vita, but I mean this could just be more of a push to try and get people using it as the second screen function.
Yeah, with
for the
PS4,
PS4 rather than necessarily as a separate console in part.
Yeah, I think
Maybe.
the sad reality is with the Vita, I mean, I love the Vita. I mean, for a console, AAA games, Borderlands 2, it's there. Apparently it doesn't run the best. I haven't played it personally yet, but it's there and it's a name that makes people go, oh, I'll go and check that console out. But the reality is the gems on this console are the indie titles. Games like Hotline Miami and Guacamelee are both fantastic games. Tear away. You know, they're some of my favourite games from last year. And there are Vita owners out there that do love this console, but unfortunately they're just such a small niche that, as Dan said, I think it's going to basically become more of an accessory to the PS4.
Yeah.
But hey, at least it's selling something.
Do you think they should have waited though and released it with one of their big up and coming exclusives?
What, for the PS4?
Yeah, bundled it with that rather than with a game that's been out for a while.
No, I don't think so, because if you release it with the PS4, that's basically like almost kind of hitting it in the ground and basically saying, right, this is just an accessory to the PS4.
Yeah.
Whereas releasing it with a big AAA title, which it is, you know, it's a great
I'm not denying
and
the title.
I think this has been a tester, and the fact that this has sold well will hopefully get other studios out there making more games for the Vita, because the more Vitas that are sold, the more attractive it is for studios to put time and money in, because all they can, you know, it's great that Vita owners buy a lot of games, but if there's only a couple of million owners out there, what are you going to make your game for? Are you going to make it for 3 million owners of Vita, or, you know, already about 8 million users on like the new generation?
Yes.
It's not even a comparison. Okay, number 2 on our list, GTA Online has been in the news for a couple of reasons this week. I'm going to hand over to Dan to talk those through with you.
Yeah, well, the big one first off is that the heists that they had planned for release by the end of spring of this year once again have been delayed. I mean, like we were talking about it before, it was stated in the original online trailer, which is what, 10 months?
Yeah, 9-10 months ago.
9-10 months ago, and still not around. Rockstar have said that they are harder to create than they anticipated.
Yeah.
Now, does that mean that they were hard to work on when they were working on them, when they were designing the game? Or did they not even think about it until the game was out and just have it in their minds that they wanted to do this? And now what they wanted to do is just not workable within GTA Online.
I don't know. I think it's just the whole structure of GTA Online in terms of, I think we've briefly touched on this privately before, about getting the money right on the heists versus the rest of the economy in GTA Online, because you do a race or you do a mission or deathmatch, you win a couple of thousands, whereas you're not going to only be given a couple of thousand for a heist. So they need to kind of maybe making sure that the balance on the money and the leveling up is even. I don't know what you think, guys.
What I think about that is well, it's a heist, isn't it? So you want the money to be high up.
Yeah, of course.
You don't want it to be too high that it's just you can do one heist and level up like 50 levels or something like that. So they literally, like you just topped up, they literally have to get it level.
Yeah.
I mean, like you touched on the in-game economy and so on there as well.
Yeah.
I had a look today because on the next thing I'll touch on as well. The stock market they wanted to do for online, that is also still not functioning. So it's clear that they've had these plans that they wanted, and it's either just because of things that broke the game early on, mean that they can't come back from it.
Yeah, they had a lot of troubles, didn't they?
Yeah, a lot of cheated money and so on like that happening early on.
Yes,
which meant there was a lot of extra dollars out there than originally intended.
Yeah.
Whether that's going to come back and they're going to look at that, or whether that's now an abandoned project.
Well, I suppose the thing about it's another thing, the markets I don't think will ever come, because they could be manipulated by the forums too much.
Yeah.
You'll have you have people saying, "Oh, buy this stock and sell this stock," and then like people will follow, and I don't think that will ever work, but hopefully the heist will come.
Yeah, and then the other thing was they've released, I don't know if it was a planned release or an apologetic release, but they've done yet another update where they've done the usual clothes, weapons, cars. This is the I'm not a hipster one, which you can dress up like a hipster.
Yeah, it's ironic, which is what hipsters are.
The slight difference in this one though is that they've level locked some of the stuff at level 100.
Okay.
So you now have to get there before you can have access to some clothes, some weapons, some paint jobs and so on for your cars.
Oh.
So if you're a long way away, you're probably not going to see those in a fair while. Whereas if you're close, maybe it's an incentive to get back on the game, maybe not.
For me,
for a car.
Yeah, for me this game, it's gone for me. I have no interest. I'll jump back in when the heists come, which they've now been delayed.
At the rate we're looking at, we could end up with Battlefield Hardline giving us heists before GTA.
I don't think so. I think this personally, my opinion, is that this has been cancelled to maybe coincide with a certain re-release of the game in October on the next gen. It's like
maybe.
Yeah. So here's the next gen version. Oh, and by the way, you can play heists online now. Because what's the what's the draw? What's the draw? Otherwise,
exactly.
For people that have it will maybe come out a week before to get people to start interested in GTA again. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
So number 3 on our list, and Sony have announced this week that the PlayStation 4 is now getting the Preload feature. So what this basically means is when you pre-order a game using the PlayStation Network, that game will download in advance of its release, and you will be able to play it as soon as that clock strikes midnight. So Gaz, I know you play probably more PS4 games than both me and Dan do.
Maybe.
Is this something that you're gonna utilise?
As you know, I buy collector's editions of most of the games if they're good enough. So just to download it and get it on the dot, I don't think it's not for me. It's not for me.
You just wait till the shop opens or the postman comes or whatever. Yeah, that's fair enough. I mean, Dan, is it something that interests you?
Not really. I mean, like I've downloaded small games,
like indie games, digital only,
and stuff like that. But I don't see the financial benefit to digital downloading when it's more expensive than the physical version.
That's true.
I mean, can go down get the physical disc, midnight release or whatever for a big game. You've got it there. It's cheaper. You've already got access to it,
and you've got the physical game in your hand. I think digital only will eventually come along. because it will be cheaper for these game distributors. I don't know what they'll do with the collector's thing that you like, because a lot of people do buy those. And there is money in them because they always cost way more than what they're worth.
They do cost way more than they were.
But at the moment, whilst we can still buy physical, and like you said, Dan, they're the same price or even cheaper in some instances.
Yeah, I mean, like you look at the network compared to what we can get them for.
We obviously win
10, 15.
In Guernsey, we don't pay VAT, so we're lucky. But yeah, I like to own a physical disc, and my internet, it would take 2 days to download this game non-stop. So I don't want to leave my PlayStation on for 2 days. I'll just buy the disc. I'm not going to play a game at midnight anyway, because I sleep at midnight because I have a job. But for an extra 2 hours, or not 2 hours, an extra 8 hours, it's not really worth it. But it's a nice feature to have for those guys out there that do like their digital libraries, and they do want to play that game a little bit earlier. It just comes in line with what Steam is doing on the PC, and it's good to see that Sony is looking at ways to improve their PlayStation network. Okay, number 4 on our list, and Microsoft have come out this week to show their support to their game studio Rare. Now, there's been a lot going on with Microsoft with the dropping of the Kinect from their Xbox One in order to bring the Xbox in line with the price point of Sony PlayStation. And for those of you that are not aware, Rare have been developing the Kinect Sports Rivals game, which is unfortunately for them, has not sold very well at all. But obviously now, with the Xbox not being required to have the Kinect, this could hurt their sales even more. But Microsoft have given them their support, and they have mentioned that Rare have got new exciting projects on the go. Now, Rare were a huge studio, guys, in the 1990s, early noughties. They made some of the best games I played as a kid. GoldenEye, Perfect Dark, both N64. I mean, they made Perfect Dark Zero for the 360, which wasn't as good, but Banjo-Kazooie was a great action-adventure game, really fun. They've been making these gimmick games more recently, this Kinect Sport. I'm not a big fan of. If I want to play a sport, I'll go outside. I don't. Yeah. Well, I say that. I love like FIFA and Madden, but if I'm going to swing my limbs around, I'll go and do it outside. But what these exciting projects that are not Kinect Sport, what would we like to see Rare make? Anyone? Dan, do you want to go first?
To be honest, I mean, like personally, from the nostalgia factor, I'd love to see a complete remake of the original GoldenEye, not a let's shove Daniel Craig into it version, but as in what we had the first time round, just modernised a bit.
1080p.
Adapt it for use, obviously with the modern controllers, which have got 2 sticks as opposed to the one middle that the N64 had. But apart from that, I was looking at the list of games they've done. GoldenEye was the only one that I could pick out that I've actually played. That's fair. Solidly, anyway.
No, I mean, obviously their strength is first-person shooters from the 90s. They haven't been able to roll with the times now. They are a long way behind. Like, people who are making like the Call of Duty games, the Battlefield games, which I know you're quite a big fan of.
I love the old Battlefield.
GoldenEye, without doubt, and Perfect Dark, for that matter, were some of the best multiplayer first-person shooter games of their time. Do you think they're making another kind of first-person shooter to right? Is there room in the market for like another Call of Duty or another Battlefield?
I think because Call of Duty and Battlefield there's so many games. Even if they try and shove one in, I don't think it'll rival those two.
No,
not sure.
I think the market's kind of getting saturated for that sort of thing. It's kind of why you're seeing. I think why Battlefield's kind of split off a little bit from what it was. Just to make it slightly different, to give it a different sort of market. I think if you put too much of the same thing in, then you're not going to succeed in the same way as if you got something original.
No, I mean, to the guys at Rare out there, you're a great studio. You've made some fantastic games in the past. Yes, okay, Kinect Sport Rivals isn't to everyone's taste, but go back to what you're good at. Everyone loved GoldenEye. Everyone loved Banjo-Kazooie. Just go back and make a fun game for us gamers. As a British man myself, I'd like to see a British studio be successful.
Yeah.
Okay, number 5 and the final item on our news this week. EA's Origin has announced a new feature called Game Time, which will allow players free access to the full game for a certain limited period of time. Now, this weekend just gone, they offered 48 hours access to Titanfall, and I think that's a really good feature where they're giving people a chance to experiment with the game, and if they liked it, they could purchase it, and that progression would have been saved as well, which is another really nice feature. Gaz, do you think something like this could come into the console market and kind of replace demos? Because obviously demos take a lot of time to make, whereas a whole game, but just for a limited time, there's no extra work to be made there for the studio.
I suppose, but with a console, there's a lot of story-based games. So if it's, say, 38 hours, how much of that game is it? Because you can easily complete a game in 38 hours.
That's true.
So you could be getting a free game.
Well, I mean, this one was Titanfall. This was 48 hours for Titanfall. But I mean, they could, I suppose, say for a story like that where it is only 12 hours. I say, okay, well, you get 5 hours to play the game or something, or 3 hours, or it's not 48 game time hours either. It's like you start on like Monday at 9 o'clock and it stops Sunday at 9 o'clock. I mean, you can play for 48 hours if you want, but you'll be a bit tired.
That would be good, because demos at the moment, like on the PlayStation 4, there's not many demos at all. No. So it would be good to play The Last of Us Remastered. You could play that for 2 hours and see how good it looks and stuff, and be like, yeah, I will go out and buy that. So that would be good.
No, that's a good point. I mean, Dan, would it make you go and buy more games? Because I mean, I know you're very particular about the games you buy, because you don't want to be wasting your money on a bad game, but like this would give you the chance to maybe see a few more games.
I mean, like, I can't personally remember the last time I played a demo for a game at all, so something like this, being able to jump in fully into a game, would be a better experience. I don't know if it would work for all types of game though. That's the thing, 'cause like you mentioned, like the story based games, I almost think, okay, if you cap it so they can only go so far into the story, you're essentially just giving a demo anyway. So it's not a different feature. But something like Titanfall, where it's just online multiplayer shooting game, like constantly like that. I can see it working for something like that. Same with like a sports game. I think those sort of games, it's something that works. Something that's a game that's completely story driven. Maybe not so much. I mean, it's something that developers would obviously look at if it became a factor. How they want to.
There's definitely ways around it. They've just got to. I suppose they've got to weigh up the figures and see whether or not it's worth doing it that way, or if enough people are buying your games without you having to give anything out other than like videos, then why give away your game for free? But if it will bring in more sales, I suppose it'd be interesting to see how many more people purchase Titanfall after this weekend.
I think this weekend's going to be the big tell, really. It's like, if there's a big spike in sales, then it's something that will get pursued further. If it doesn't really do anything, it may slowly just die a death with no one really paying attention to it.
It'd be definitely interesting to see what the figures are. So now we come to that time of the show where we will feature our game of the week. Now this week has been pretty slow for games, as I mentioned earlier on. After E3 there's always a bit of a lull of game news, so we figured we'd focus on a game that came out a few weeks back, and that was Ubisoft's Watch Dogs. Now Ubisoft announced that this was their fastest selling game ever, which is incredible. It sold more copies in the first 24 hours than any other Ubisoft title. In addition, it sold 4 million copies inside its first week, so it's obviously been a really successful game for them commercially, and the game's also been pretty well received by the critics for the most part. Now, for anyone that's not aware of Watch Dogs, just give you a brief introduction. You take on the role of a protagonist named Aiden Pierce, who is basically out for revenge following a death in the family. Now, the difference to him to maybe a normal protagonist you take on is he is a hacker, and basically he is able to use his hacking skills to manipulate pretty much anything that has any piece of computing or electronics within it. The city, which is Chicago, runs off this operating system called CTOS, and basically he has found a backdoor into that operating system, so he can manipulate anything from people's mobile phones to security cameras to grenades, traffic lights, pretty much everything and anything. Now Gaz, I know you've played this game and you had a lot of fun doing so, didn't you? And myself as well, I've just completed it. Dan, you haven't yet purchased this game. I know you're on the edge, so you've brought some questions today for me and Gaz, which probably a lot of people who are still undecided about the game may be wondering themselves. So do you want to fire some questions at us and we can see if we can convince you guys whether or not it's the right or wrong game to buy?
Yep, sure. First off, you've already mentioned his name, Aiden Pierce, being the protagonist. Now, I've heard mixed reviews about him as a character in terms of some people don't like him at all. Some people find his persona quite boring, whereas other people consider him perfectly fine considering the setting he's in and his circumstances. I know, going back to like AC3 with Connor, I didn't find him that interesting, so I want to try and avoid having to go down that road again. Would you say those reviews that are negative are warranted, or perhaps people just being too picky?
Alright, Gaz, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, well, it's, he is trying to find the people that killed someone in his family, and the way he goes about it is, I find, very interesting. Like, I think I can relate to him. Like, if something happened to that in my family, I would probably do what he does. And some of the lines he says are a bit like, but you didn't have to say that kind of thing. But I personally think he's a good character.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, he's not the best character in a game I've ever played. He doesn't have maybe the charisma that like a Trevor has in GTA Online.
I'm sure charisma is the
charisma
word I'd use.
But he's not like that. But I wound up caring what was happening in his life. Maybe not so much him, which I think is where maybe the reviews come from. You never quite feel overly attached to him, but you do feel attached to people in his life.
Okay.
So like the family that he's trying to avenge/save, you feel for them. Like his friends that he meets along the way, you care about them. And so I suppose it's not so much that you're invested in Aiden Pierce, but more you kind of almost become him because you're caring more about others than you are yourself.
So it's kind of like the storyline then you would say is a strong one, because
definitely
you get that then, because a weak storyline is not going to make you invested in the characters within it.
No.
So I know it's very open worldy in what you can go about and do.
Is that the technical term?
Yeah, open worldy is the best way of describing it, I think. But as in the storyline enough to drag you in and make you do that from start to finish to avoid all the side stuff, or would you say side stuff's interesting enough to drag you away?
It's a mix and match. I mean, the story is very good, but also so is the side stuff. I mean, we were talking on the way over here. How long did you say you spent playing the side stuff before?
1 hour with one game, which is all that game with 3 cups. Someone puts a ball underneath.
Follow the ball.
I did that for like an hour because you got these little levels, and it's like level 1 is easy, level 2 is hard, it goes up to level 5. But there's so much to do. Like before the story, like most people, I know you did, kind of went straight for the story.
Yeah.
But I went straight for. I got into the world. When you open up into the world, I'm like, I'm going to that place, going to look at that, going to do this, and then hit the story, and it's just so good.
Yeah, I think the freedom that you get in this city is really interesting. It's not like old GTA games where maybe you can only do certain side missions which kind of follow along with the main story. Like pretty much I've never not seen a side mission available on the map the whole time I played the game. And on top of that, like the city's huge. I mean, I've played the game so far for about 20 hours, and I still have no idea where I'm going in the city at any point in time. It's not just, you haven't just got like the urban areas either. It's not San Andreas. It's not that vast, but it does have like kind of like some more of like the countries and hills and stuff, like the suburban areas, and it's got a really nice mixture, and it's a fun city to investigate. I mean, that's partially down to the NPCs in the game. Touching briefly on the hacking, where you can hack everyone's phone, as I mentioned earlier, but when you are profiling the individuals, which is what it's known as when you get the information, you can see their names, you can see their income, you can see their job title, and you get like an interesting stat about this person. Like, this guy is a reverend and he earns 45,000, but he also recently received a new kidney or something, and then you have to decide, do I want to steal money from his bank account when he's basically just had to have a new kidney and he's a reverend? The answer is yes.
Do you ever get any feedback from that? Like, do you ever come back across those same people again? It's just like, oh, you stole money from this person earlier, then it's like could not afford to do something because suddenly however much you've taken is missing, or is it literally just like a one-time fact blast?
No, it's not. I never. There was never really any consequence. Like, they make you feel guilty for taking people's money, but there's never really any consequence for it. The only consequence is sometimes when you hack someone's phone, if they're like affiliated with Bloom, which is like the big kind of company that made CTOS, then they start phoning like another hacker to hack. That's where the online component comes into the game. They get someone else to come and hack your game, but it tells you that they're hacking the game or phoning the police, and you have time to basically go over to them and basically steal their phone from them. That's like the only consequence that happens.
Or you can shoot them in the head.
You could shoot them, but then you definitely get police.
And you get bad rep, because there's good rep and bad rep, and you can. It matters. Like when you chase someone down in a car, when they get out, you can either just get out and shoot them, or what I always do is run after them and take them down, and then you get good rep for that. And for kind of obtaining the thief rather than murdering him. Yeah.
But there's. I think consequences would have been a nicer feature to the game, but there's so much in there. I mean, they don't have to have everything. It's a nice little touch that it's there, but all the side missions, all the main story. I mean, the main story is actually a really good aspect of the game. I know you asked before, like whether or not you felt it was compelling. Gaz touched on a lot of the side stuff he did. No, I was the same. The first few hours of any game, you're like a kid at Christmas. You just don't know which toy to play with. You're doing a bit of everything because you can't just focus. But the story's broken up into 5 acts, pretty much 4 acts, because the last act's basically the final showdown, as it were. By the time I got onto Act 3, where the story gets not more serious, but like the stakes get higher, and like kind of stuff's really starting to go down with like his family, and like everything's kind of starting to snowball basically. From Act 3, I didn't touch any of the side mission stuff because I just focused on that story. I wanted to see what happened, and also I kind of wanted to finish it for this show, but that's but really I was actually just drawn into the story, and it's not the best story I've ever played, but there was no point when I felt like it was a chore to be having to finish it, and like I could have just taken or leaving it. I was happy to play it and happy to finish it, and like I said, it took about 20 hours, but that's not all story. That's kind of driving everywhere and doing loads of side stuff in between. So I'd say the main campaign, if you just focused on that, is probably about 10 to 12. Would you say?
I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't really count time when I'm playing the game.
You just play it. Yeah.
I just play it.
I'd say 10 to 12 about it. But with all the side stuff, I mean, there's so much to do. Whether it's kind of taking down people, like taking down like kind of gang hideout, like drug gang hideouts, or taking down like a convoy of cars for whatever reason, or running jobs for other kind of hackers or whatever it is. There's so many to do, and I really want to platinum this game, and it's
a lot of hours to invest still.
Yeah, it's definitely going to carry me through the summer, that's for sure. 50 plus hours, I'd say.
With all that stuff in there, then, is there anything that you feel could have been done slightly better or slightly differently, or do you feel you're pretty much happy with how the game came out overall?
I don't know what Gaz thinks about this, but the driving wasn't that great. It was a bit, I felt it was really kind of not soft, but like really light. It never felt like you were driving like a big heavy car. Like when you tried to go around a corner, it would just kind of, the tail would flip out. I think they're trying to go for the arcadey effect, and it's really interesting that this game initially kind of started out as a new driver game. That was what the engine was. So obviously there was some driving mechanics in it, but it obviously snowballed and became a completely different game. But the driving to me takes you away from the experience, because when you're in you've done this really serious mission, and now you've got like 4-star, whatever they call it, police after you in this game, which is basically helicopters, coppers, like the works basically. It's not easy to get away from, and it's just really frustrating because you can't control your car very well at speed. You just end up kind of running over civilians, and then you get like that bad rep that Gaz talked about. And, I generally try to be the good guy in a game, apart from stealing everyone's money and buying people's money, but
that didn't have consequences.
No, it didn't have consequences. But no, I mean, a lot of people moaned about the driving aspect from a point of view that the only way you could take people out was by hacking. But I thought that was really cool.
That's really good. Like, the game was based around hacking. It's like, so you don't expect to, because you can't shoot out of a car in this game, like in GTA. You can't do that. People moan that, why can't I shoot this guy instead of getting out and chasing him down?
I actually kind of like that idea of there being an option of not having to kill to get away. Like, a lot of games where you're being chased, you're pretty much, your option is to just turn around and shoot your pursuer.
Yeah, no, it's not
like
always
having that option of just being able to escape and be done with it is actually kind of refreshing, actually, to be honest.
The idea is, like, I mean, with any hacker, I would imagine, is that they're supposed to try and be a ghost.
Yeah,
like they get in and get out. Like, you know, he's not an ex-army or ex-marine or anything. You know, he's just a normal dude that's good with computers, and like, it's interesting that, like, he's driving and, like, he can stop people from chasing him by, you know, manipulating the traffic light. So when he goes through a T junction, he makes them all go green, so that then basically the side traffic comes as the cops come, and it just ends up in like
really
big pile up. Or you can put like road blockers up as you go over them, and they crash into them. It's really clever, and it helps make it be different, because if it was exactly the same as GTA, everyone would just say, oh, it's just a slightly worse GTA.
GTA with a phone.
The game is at its best when it's trying to do stuff that's not like GTA. I think, you know, like the fact that you can take down this whole kind of big building of, like, say 20 enemies, and you don't actually even have to step foot in that building to take them down. You just manipulate the security cameras and set off, you know, like their grenades that you can make them explode, and like kind of manhole covers that blow up, and it's just really cool. And I would have no problem with recommending this game, despite the driving issue. I mean, did you have anything else you didn't like about it?
The ability to hack friends, because they have a hacking system which is online.
Okay.
And you can go onto their single player, and then you got to try and hack them, like being a ghost, and they get alerted that they're being hacked, and they got to try and find you as a cat and mouse, and they got to try and kill you and stuff. But you can't go onto your friends list.
So it's all just like completely random stranger.
All random strangers. You can't go onto your friends list and actually send a message to them to come onto your party and get into the game. You can't actually do that at all.
No, that's actually a really good point.
Yeah.
I don't like playing against strangers that much. I prefer playing with my friends, but hopefully, I can only imagine it must be something that's quite easy for Ubisoft to fix.
Yeah, it should be.
I mean, I can understand the concerns they have, because they're worried about people, like, kind of manipulating the system and basically using their friends to make them be more successful online, so they get more, like, online points.
Yeah.
But that's the same with...
You get boosting with any online game.
Yeah.
So.
But hopefully they'll introduce it, because at the moment I've only played the online stuff when there's a couple of times in the game where it forces you to do it.
Yeah, there is. And
that's the only time that I did it. You know, I haven't actively gone, ooh, let's go and hack someone's game, because I don't really have interest in hacking people I don't know.
So you're actually forced to go online at some point in the game. Yeah?
You can turn it off.
You can turn it off.
So it's not game breaking if you were somewhere out in the sticks and had no internet connection.
No, it's not. Yeah. You can turn it off, but it's just like a kind of thing where, like, you're trying to profile down, you're trying to find a certain individual, and then whilst you're trying to do it, someone hacks you again. It's almost like an in-story tutorial of how it works.
Okay.
To try and make it feel like a seamless integration of the story. But you can have it turned off. You don't have to have it on.
Okay.
If you don't want to be playing with annoying little 10-year-old strangers. That sounds a bit weird, but yeah, you know what I mean.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
So I don't know. There's not really much else to say. I mean, it's a very good game. It's not the best game ever. It will probably win a few awards. You know, it looks pretty. It doesn't look as pretty as that initial trailer did, but it still looks fine. The animation looked fine, but the main thing is just it's a lot of fun. And at the end of the day,
that's what you want.
That's what you want in the game. And there's so much to do. If you're worried about, you know, value for money, this is a lot better than most games. So yeah, anything else for you?
No, I think you've pretty much covered everything that I noted down in some shape or form.
So you're going to buy it now then?
Still got the others to finish first, but when that's done, I will seriously consider it, because the number of hours that you can put into it will probably cover me for the rest of that sort of summer lapse where there's not a lot else coming out.
Got to have something to tie you over till that Madden comes out.
There'll be things before that.
Yeah. Well, there you go, guys. There's our opinion on Watch Dogs. If you haven't already checked it out, we really recommend that you do. It's a very good game, very enjoyable, and you definitely won't regret playing this game. Okay, so that's about it for this week on the Game in a Week show. If you've liked what you've seen, then please like this video and subscribe to our channel. If you've got any comments you want to make about what we've discussed this week, or maybe any comments about any future news that's coming up or future games that you would like us to discuss, please also leave those and we will respond to you. For now, Gaz, thank you for helping us out this week.
It's alright, anytime.
Yeah, and remember, go and check out his channel. It's very funny. It's here, or maybe in the comments. I haven't decided if I can work it out yet. And Dan, thank you for joining us again.
Yeah, cheers, Matt.
And until next Monday, we will see you next time.